In the heart of a remote, moonlit forest, dense with gnarled trees and shrouded in mist, stood the ancient Castle Drachenhof. For centuries, villagers from the nearby hamlet of Auchenwald spoke in hushed whispers about the malevolent presence that haunted the castle's shadowed halls. The legend told of a vampire, Count Lucian, who once ruled the land with an iron fist and an insatiable thirst for blood. One crisp autumn evening, a young scholar named Jonathan Bramwell arrived at the village. Drawn by curiosity and the promise of unraveling the castle's dark secrets, he decided to venture into the forest despite the villagers' fervent warnings. Armed with a lantern and a satchel of garlic cloves, Jonathan felt a mix of determination and trepidation. The forest was known for its eerie tales and mysterious happenings, and he couldn't help but feel a shiver run down his spine as he stepped onto the path. The lantern's light flickered, casting long, dancing shadows on the ground, making the forest seem even more alive and menacing. Jonathan set off on the narrow, winding path leading to the castle. The path was barely visible, overgrown with weeds and fallen leaves, making each step a cautious endeavor. In the distance, the silhouette of the castle loomed, its dark towers piercing the night sky. The journey ahead seemed daunting, but Jonathan knew he had to press on. The forest seemed to close in around him as he walked, the trees' twisted branches reaching out like skeletal hands. Each branch seemed to whisper secrets of the past, tales of those who had ventured through and never returned. The dense canopy above blocked out the moonlight, plunging the path into an almost impenetrable darkness. The air grew colder, and an eerie silence fell, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. The mist began to rise from the forest floor, swirling around Jonathan's feet, adding to the surreal and haunting atmosphere. Every sound seemed amplified, every shadow more sinister. Jonathan couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, and his pace quickened. His heart pounded in his chest, and he clutched the lantern tighter, its light his only comfort in the oppressive darkness. He glanced over his shoulder repeatedly, half expecting to see a pair of glowing eyes staring back at him. The forest seemed to be alive, breathing, and watching his every move. Determined to reach the castle before dawn, Jonathan pushed forward, his resolve unwavering despite the fear gnawing at his core. Gathering his courage, Jonathan took a deep breath and stepped forward. The castle loomed before him, its ancient stones whispering secrets of a bygone era. Jonathan crossed the drawbridge and entered the castle's grand hall. The vastness of the hall was overwhelming, with towering columns and arches that seemed to touch the heavens. The air inside was heavy with the scent of decay, a mix of mold and dust that had settled over centuries. Shadows danced on the walls, creating an eerie atmosphere that made Jonathan's heart race. Cobwebs draped the corners like ghastly curtains, swaying gently in the draft that whispered through the ancient corridors. Each step Jonathan took disturbed the silence, sending tiny creatures scurrying into the darkness. Jonathan's footsteps echoed as he explored the castle, the sound amplifying the emptiness that surrounded him. He could almost hear the faint whispers of the past, stories of knights and nobles who once roamed these halls. His lantern cast flickering light on the faded tapestries and cracked marble floors, revealing glimpses of the castle's former grandeur. The tapestries, though worn and tattered, depicted scenes of battles and feasts, a testament to the castle's rich history. He discovered a grand staircase spiraling upwards, its steps worn by the passage of countless feet. The staircase seemed to beckon him, promising more secrets and mysteries hidden within the castle's depths. Taking a deep breath, he ascended the steps, each one creaking under his weight. The sound echoed through the empty halls, a haunting reminder of the castle's age and the many who had walked these steps before him. Each creak sent shivers down his spine, a chilling reminder of the castle's eerie presence. As he climbed higher, the air grew colder and the sense of foreboding deepened. Jonathan knew he was getting closer to the heart of Castle Drachenhof, where the true secrets awaited. As he approached the coffin, a figure emerged from the shadows. Tall, with pale skin that seemed to glow in the darkness, and eyes that burned with an unholy fire. "Welcome to Castle Drachenhof," the figure intoned, voice as smooth as silk and as cold as ice. "I am Count Lucian, and I have awaited your arrival." Count Lucian's eyes narrowed, and in a flash he lunged at Jonathan, fangs bared. The scholar barely had time to react, but instinct took over. He thrust the stake forward, piercing the vampire's heart. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Then, with a blood-curdling scream, the Count disintegrated into a cloud of dust, leaving nothing but silence in his wake. Exhausted and shaken, Jonathan stumbled out of the chamber. His breath was ragged, and his heart pounded in his chest. The air outside felt fresh and liberating compared to the suffocating darkness he had just escaped. He took a moment to steady himself, leaning against the cold stone wall, his mind racing with the events that had just transpired. With a deep breath, he made his way back through the forest. The trees, once menacing and foreboding, now seemed to part for him as if acknowledging his triumph. Each step he took was a reminder of the perilous journey he had undertaken, the dangers he had faced, and the courage he had summoned to confront the malevolent forces within the chamber. The first light of dawn was breaking as he reached the village. The soft hues of pink and orange painted the sky, signaling a new beginning. The village, which had been shrouded in fear and despair, now seemed to awaken with a renewed sense of hope. The birds began to chirp, and the air was filled with the promise of a brighter future. As Jonathan approached, the relieved faces of the villagers greeted him. They had been waiting anxiously, their hearts heavy with worry. Now their expressions transformed into ones of joy and gratitude. Children ran up to him, their eyes wide with admiration, while the elders nodded in respect. Jonathan felt a sense of pride and fulfillment, knowing that his actions had brought peace to his people. The curse of Castle Drachenhof had been lifted. The once ominous and foreboding structure now stood as a testament to Jonathan's bravery. The dark clouds that had perpetually hung over it began to dissipate, revealing the castle in a new light. It was no longer a place of dread, but a symbol of resilience and hope. The shadow that had loomed over the land for so long was finally dispelled. The fields, once barren and lifeless, began to show signs of renewal. Flowers started to bloom, and the rivers flowed with a newfound vigor. The land, which had suffered under the curse, was now on the path to recovery. Yet as Jonathan gazed back at the forest, a sense of unease lingered. The trees, though no longer threatening, still held memories of the darkness he had faced. He knew that while the immediate danger had passed, the scars of the past would take time to heal. He couldn't shake the feeling that the Count's eyes still watched him from the darkness. The malevolent presence that had once controlled the castle might have been vanquished, but its essence seemed to linger, a silent reminder of the battles fought and the ones yet to come. A silent promise that the night would never truly be free of its terrors. Jonathan knew that vigilance was necessary, for the forces of darkness were always waiting for a moment of weakness. But for now, he allowed himself a moment of peace, knowing that he had given his people a chance to rebuild and thrive.